one that has a lot to do with meaning is something called overabundance. When you have, for example, a verb and you can't decide which pattern it should follow, you might have two options. So like strive is an example I use all the time. For the past tense, yesterday I
Strove.
strove. So you both like strove.
Strove.
How do you like strived?
Maybe. Yeah,
Maybe.
it works.
Okay.
I'll
And now the past participle, yesterday I had striven or strived. So you can say strived in either of those, or you can say strove, but it doesn't change the meaning at all.
So you can say both, and those are the things that, like, when you're coming up with titles or things like that, you kind of get stuck in like which one it is.
When you have to like write it out.
When you actually have to write it out, it's
Yeah.
for something important. You just get stuck on things like that.
Yeah. And what's interesting is most people, their first question is like, well, which one's right?
Yeah.
And even if you look at usage guides, they don't say like this one's right and this one's wrong. It's just like these both get used. And there's not a real difference between them. So that's connected to meaning. That one isn't connected to meaning necessarily, but sometimes it is connected to meaning. So for example, let's pick another one here. Shine. Okay.
Shone.
So you have to know a bunch of things about shine to use it. You have to know what patterns it follows. You have to know whether or not you use a direct object with it, things like that. So let's say you have a light and you're shining the light. So Sophie blanked the light through the window.
Shined.
Shined. What do you like?
Shined.
Shine. Is shone bad? Sophie shone the light through the window.
That's okay.
I mean, in my perception, that would sound more poetic.
More poetic, okay.
Yeah.
But not terribly bad. Certainly not as bad as rats infested.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Now, if we don't have a direct object, how do you feel like the light shone through the window?
Great.
The light shined through the window.
Also
Weirder.
Weirder, but still
but
terrible, right?
I would say it's okay, great. I wouldn't feel weird about it.
So shined and shone both mean the same thing, but we liked shine better when there was a direct object, and we like shone better when there wasn't. Now let's talk about a different meaning of shine. So not emitting light, but to make something shiny. So yesterday I blinked his shoes.
I
Shine.
Shined, 100%. There's no shone possible with that one, right?
Yeah.
So which meaning you have actually affects which forms are possible, and which construction affects which forms are possible and which ones are preferred.
Oh.
So you have this interaction of meaning and construction and form.
This reminds me of one of my colleague Peter that would always come back from your classes with some very cool facts. He was like, yeah, there's this verb in Portuguese that does not have a first person. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, colorir, to color. And like, color, I'm like, wait a minute, that seems weird.
Yeah, it just doesn't exist,
It's
right?
like, wait, nobody says that. I was like, so how do I express the idea of I color in Portuguese? And then I kept thinking, it was like, and like my whole existence is now in jeopardy. Like, what? I don't know how to express that. Like, how's it? I color. I can say that in English in the first person, but I can't say that in Portuguese. Like, eu colorio, eu coloro, no. Eu pinto, I paint. So it's like you have to say I paint or another word, but you can't say to color.
Yep. And there's a small class of verbs that do that in Portuguese for the first person singular. There's other ones that do it more broadly. And this is the other side of overabundance. So when we have overabundance is when you have two options and you kind of like them both maybe for different reasons. And yours is you don't like any of them so much so that you won't say it.
Yeah.
It's called defectiveness is what it's called.
Exactly. But the thing is, how come it's defective? Who was the divine overlord that was like, this verb is defective? And it's like that.
Well, the reason, remember, you're the divine overlord because you're the native speaker. So you don't want to say it. Therefore, you have determined that it's defective.
I mean,
we didn't make you not say that form. You just decided not to.
Yeah, but it's like
you don't like that. You don't like being the divine overlord.
No, it's because it's one of those things that you don't think. That you don't think about. It's like, oh wait a minute. It's who decided that?
Well, that's the same ones with like the examples I gave you, thing of shine and shone. We don't even realize that there's the two options, but we have really clear preferences for them. So on defectiveness, which is when you don't have a form. And we have some in English that are kind of like this. Like some people don't like the past tense of grandstand or somewhat.
Stood, grand.
Yeah, grandstanded, but also a lot of people don't even use that word anyways. But when you have indecision about which pattern to follow, you have a few basic outcomes. One is you choose one over the other and you just stick with it. And a lot of verbs are like that. In fact, did you know there's 2 historical past tenses for help? What's the past tense of help?
Helped.
And
hope.
Could you even guess what the other one is?
Is it hoped?
Yeah, it's hope.
Hope.
Okay?
Oh.
That was historically the past tense for help, but it switched and it's just help now. No English speaker now has hope.
Sure.
Okay? But there are other verbs that still have variations. So for example, heave. What's the past tense of heave?
Heave.
It's a heaved.
Yeah, it's heaved, but weirdly in this one phrase of hove into view, it is still used in literary context as hove. Okay, so sometimes you still have both of them, but one's really restricted in its context. And sometimes you have 2 and you don't like either one, or there's something that really bothers you about both. So you choose that we don't have one in there. And then speakers, as far as we can tell, there's still a lot being learned about this, but learn that there isn't a form there. They're like, oh, wait, I've been listening to this, I've heard this word, and by now I should have heard that form if it exists. So I can infer that it doesn't exist because otherwise I should have heard it by now. And so they systematically avoid it, and then not having a form is what exists there.